On the morning of August 12, 2025, Gabon's Council of Ministers gathered in Libreville for what many thought would be just another routine session. But instead of ordinary business, they emerged with a decision that would shake the nation and ripple across the African continent. The government announced that foreign nationals would no longer be allowed to participate in a wide range of small-scale businesses. This decree was sweeping and specific. Street vending, mobile phone repairs, artisanal gold panning, tailoring, hairdressing, and even the buying of crops in rural villages, all activities where thousands of West African migrants had built livelihoods, were suddenly reserved exclusively for Gabonese citizens. Within hours, the decision dominated radio shows, lit up social media, and became the subject of heated debates from Libreville to Port-Gentil. The message was clear. Gabon's informal economy would now belong to Gabonese people. Only, the build-up this announcement did not come out of nowhere. For weeks, rumors had spread that President Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema's government was preparing a crackdown on informal trade in the town of Libreville. On the Aga River, tensions had been rising for months. Local traders were furious after accusing officials of giving prime spots in a newly built market to foreign vendors, particularly West African women. Protests erupted. One angry protest leader shouted, "How can we be strangers in our own town?" By the time the council met in August, frustration had reached boiling point. Officials defended the decision as an act of patriotism. In their words, "We must restore economic sovereignty and give our young people the opportunities they deserve." Ministers promised loans, training, and simplified registration to support local entrepreneurs. They insisted this wasn't about shutting down markets, but about reviving Gabonese control over them. But outside the polished government statements, the picture on the ground told a very different story. Shock in the markets in Libreville's sprawling Montbouet market, one of the largest in Central Africa, the mood was tense. Many stalls were shuttered as Nigerian shopkeepers, Malian tailors, and Cameroonian food traders tried to figure out whether the decree meant they had to pack up immediately, or if there would be some kind of transition period. Some had lived in Gabon for decades. They had invested their savings, raised families, and woven themselves into the social fabric of Gabonese cities. Now, overnight, their futures were in jeopardy. On social media, reactions were split. Gabonese youth groups flooded Facebook and X with posts celebrating the decision as long overdue. But others warned it could fuel xenophobia and threaten relations with neighboring states. The hashtag Gabonization quickly went viral, used both as a rallying cry for sovereignty and as a warning of dangerous division. Regional tensions. The backlash was immediate beyond Gabon's borders. Nigerian diaspora groups called on their government to issue a formal protest, arguing that thousands of Nigerians stood to lose their businesses and homes. Cameroonian traders' unions demanded Libreville guarantee that their members would not face harassment or violent displacement. Diplomats warned that Gabon's move could set a precedent for other African states. If Gabon could suddenly expel foreign traders, what was to stop others from following suit? Would this unravel decades of progress toward freer movement across the continent? But despite these warnings, Gabon doubled down. Officials insisted, "This is not anti-African, it is pro-Gabonese." In theory, that distinction mattered. In practice, for the thousands of foreign traders facing eviction, it meant very little. The real reason. So why did Gabon act so quickly and so severely? On the surface, it was about jobs. Gabon's youth, more than 60% of the population, face staggering unemployment. For years, they've looked at markets and workshops dominated by foreigners and felt excluded. After the 2023 coup that brought Oligui Nguema to power, many expected rapid reform and opportunity. But by mid-2025, patience was running thin. Infrastructure remained weak. Corruption was still present. Jobs were scarce. The government needed a bold gesture, something visible and immediate, to show it was on the side of ordinary Gabonese people. The Libreville protests provided the spark. The Council of Ministers' decision was the fire extinguisher. In truth, the ban was less an economic reform than a political survival strategy. The politics of power. Oligui Nguema's government was born of a coup. Such regimes constantly struggle with legitimacy. Every policy, every public move, becomes political theater meant to project strength. By banning foreign traders, the president positioned himself as a defender of sovereignty, a leader unafraid to draw hard lines between us and them. This strategy redirected public anger. Instead of focusing on the government's failures to create jobs, Frustration was shifted toward foreign competitors who had become a highly visible presence in Gabonese markets. It was classic political calculus. Blame outsiders, rally nationalist pride, and secure the image of a strong leader. And it worked, at least in the short term. A continental trend. Gabon is not alone. Across Africa, protectionist policies are on the rise. Just a month earlier, in July 2025, Tanzania passed a law restricting foreigners from small-scale trade. When Dar es Salaam made that move without facing heavy backlash, it set a precedent. Gabon quickly followed. This reflects a wider wave of economic nationalism sweeping the continent. Leaders increasingly frame sovereignty not just in terms of borders and politics, but in terms of who gets to control everyday commerce. But there's a risk. These moves cut directly against the vision of a united Africa under the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. AfCFTA was meant to break down barriers, allowing African people, goods, and services to move more freely across borders. Gabon's decree does the opposite. It erects new barriers right inside the continent. If more countries adopt similar bans, the dream of continental integration may slowly crumble, not through one dramatic collapse, but through the quiet erosion of trust, one decree at a time. Risks and consequences for Gabon. The immediate benefit of the ban is political, but the risks are huge. Foreign traders are not just economic actors. They are also part of Gabon's social fabric. Tailors, shopkeepers, and food vendors have lived alongside Gabonese for decades. Suddenly excluding them could fracture communities and even provoke violence. Diplomatic relations are also at stake. Alienating Nigeria, Cameroon, and Mali could lead to retaliatory policies, trade disputes, or strained cooperation in security and migration. And while nationalism may score points in the short term, it does little to solve the root problem. Gabon's economy still lacks jobs, industries, and opportunities for its young people. Without real reforms, the frustrations that pushed the government to act will resurface, this time without foreigners to blame. A risky gamble at its core, Gabon's vendor ban is less about economics than about power and perception. It shores up a Liguine Gama's political authority by sending a message: we protect Gabonese first, no matter the cost. It signals sovereignty in the face of both domestic critics and foreign powers. But it also risks igniting xenophobia, straining regional ties, and undermining Africa's fragile project of integration. It is a gamble, one that could stabilize the regime in the short run but destabilize Gabon and its neighbors in the long run. The big question. So here's the question: was Gabon really defending jobs for locals? Or was this a desperate attempt by its leaders to cling to power? If sovereignty was the shield, what was the real threat? Was it unemployment? Foreign traders? Or simply the growing impatience of a restless population? One thing is certain: Gabon's decision has already reshaped not just its markets, but the conversation across Africa. And it leaves us with a bigger dilemma. If every country chooses nationalism over unity, what happens to the dream of a united Africa? Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into African politics, culture, and history. Until next time, stay tuned.